Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels with me, Martin, Sean and Jill.
Hi.
On this episode, I catch up with my old mate, Adam Frost, and we get Adam Uncut, where he talks frankly to me about his life and his work. And of course, you'll know Adam, he's a garden designer and presenter on BBC Gardener's World.
And we'd like to say thank you to Plant Grow for supporting the podcast. It's really great to have them on board. They make a range of sustainable composts and liquid feeds and mulches, and we use it in our own gardens. It's really good stuff.
And your strawberries are looking very good on it. We've got some questions this week as well. One of them about scale insect on an Acer. So some big problems with that. And then Martin's got some jobs for us, including some essential rose care that we need to be doing.
And just before we meet Adam, we must just say that we've got a live show coming up. So if you want to get your questions in for the live show, it'll be on June the 12th on YouTube, about 7 o'clock UK time. So we'll be answering your questions live, so you can comment on the day and you can watch on the day, and it'll be interactive.
And we'll have a look around the garden and some of the things we've been doing over the last 6 months. So
we'll have a garden tour, we'll be answering questions, and there'll be tips as usual. So yes, anyway, we need to get over and meet your old china, as they say in Cockney rhyming slang. My old china mate, my old china plate. This is Adam.
Adam, you've got so many different strings to your bow. Television presenter, you do live theatre, you work at flower shows, you're a designer. But tell us, how did it all start for you in the world of horticulture?
Mate, I suppose originally tidy nan and scruffy nan, like a lot of people, gardening with grandparents. My childhood was, let's call it, complicated. So I spent a lot of time with them. But I left home at 16, so... and I was I found out later on I was dyslexic, so I was a kid that they went join the army, be a gardener, or you could be a chef boy because you're not going to do a lot else. And I managed to get a job on a parks department and proper old apprenticeship, really, mate. So that's how it started.
And where was that? Where was the apprenticeship?
I'd been moved from. I was moved from London to Devon when I was 15, and then the wheels came off a little bit. I didn't like it. Didn't really go to school for the last couple of years. So left home at 16, and then left home, got a little bed sit, and it was North Devon Parks Department. But what was quite good was Devon was quite a long way behind the rest of the country, which meant Maggie hadn't actually privatised the parks departments down there, and you know what happened to the parks departments, in privatisation, those apprenticeship schemes went. So I was really lucky. I got the back end of the old parks. So my old charge hand, George Holman, and my foreman was called Jim Yo. And they were proper old park keepers. So you did, we grew all our own bedding, 200,000 bedding. We did sites of special interest. We did sports pitches. You did tree surgery. You name it. You did. You even had to do a stint up the graveyard, mate.
Very similar. I mean, I'm older than you, but I had a very similar experience on the Newark Parks Department in Nottinghamshire. And I mean, they don't exist that now, because you did do everything. We used to do, like you say, the flowers in the mayor's parlour, grave digging, the lot. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I think that really set me up for a career in horticulture.
It did me. I mean, to be fair as well, I was quite an angry young man. A lot of stuff had happened to me. So I think as well, as much as anything, it kept me on a straight and narrow. I can, looking back, remember lots of conversations with Jim, who was in his 60s at the time, and explaining to me that maybe that wasn't quite the approach that I should be taking in a good old Devon tone to it, And he was a lovely old boy, so he would... normally when you were going to get a chat from Jim, so when Jim was like in his youth, he rowed the lifeboat, so he had arms on him bigger than my legs, and the moment you got an hand on your leg when you were in the van, it meant, hold on, I've got a conversation coming here, and I can't escape, because he had a grip like his advice, but wonderful people.
Didn't argue with him.
No, exactly.
So fast forward then, I mean, because you did a lot of work with the late Jeff Hamilton, you did a lot of the design work. So how did you get to be up there in Rutland?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of did my apprenticeship, stayed on an extra 12 months. Then I wanted to get away from Devon. As much as I loved Devon as a place, work-wise, it wasn't. So I moved back to London, and then 21. I saw a job in Horticultural Week for a young landscaper required television garden in Rutland, and I applied. And to be fair, to start with, I didn't get it. He offered it to someone else to start with. And eventually that didn't work out, and I got offered the chance. And yeah, amazing. I mean, if you look back, I mean, you've been there loads of times, and you know sort of what he was about, and the idea that you're 21 years old and someone's peat-free, organic, already talking about destruction we're doing at the countryside, farming back then with soils. What was, and he set me a moral compass really as to how to garden. Yeah.
And I suppose now, because the gardens are still open and the television garden is there, so a lot of the gardens that are there now are the ones that you will have designed 25 plus years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he sent me off to train. I mean, again, I don't think you really appreciate it when you're in your sort of mid-20s, but, he sent me off to train with David Stevens, who then became a great friend, and I ended up doing a load of work with him later on. So literally everything was designed and built in the end was down to me, basically. Jeff would have a conversation, or he'd come out with a scribble on the back of a piece of paper, say, can you work this up, or can you do this, or can you come up with an idea, for this, or we're going to do this show, and I want you to. I mean, the last thing we did together, I did a reclaimed garden at Gardeners World Live, and I designed that, that was '96, and you think, right, and he sort of trusted me to go, and then it was his name above it. You think, like, he must have been mad,
Yeah.
But so I mean, when he passed away, it was like the sort of the old rug was ripped, really.
Yeah. Well, you've done all right since. So, I mean, what we'll do, we're going to have a little break, and we're going to find out what you're doing now and some of the exciting projects you're working on.
Cool.
Well, coming up, we'll have that question about scale insect and what you do to deal with that. But it's probably worth mentioning a couple of names dropped there, which we need to just confirm. So Jeff Hamilton, David Stevens. So Jeff Hamilton was a very famous gardener on BBC Gardener's World, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. He was the main presenter for, I think, about 17 years. And they gardened from Barnsdale, which was his house, in Rutland, a place called Exton. And it's now still open. Sadly, Jeff died 25, 30 years ago. But his son Nick has taken on the garden. It's not used for filming anymore, but it's open to the public. It's a really lovely garden. If you're in that neck of the woods, I can heartily recommend that you go and have a look. And a lot of the old television sets that they built, the little gardens, are still there, which Adam designed, and Nick has kept them. And people that, my age, remember seeing them being built on television. So it's really interesting to go.
And we've got a video, haven't we, filmed a couple of years ago of Barnsdale Garden. So if you can't get there but you want to know what we're talking about, then we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, and the other influential person in Adam's life was David Stevens, who of course is a designer, and we did a podcast with him last year, didn't we, back in December. So it's quite interesting to hear about his work.
We can link people to that if you want to hear from David. And the other person he mentioned was Maggie. Maybe we should just have a quick mention of who Maggie was. I think most people know who Maggie was.
No politics on Pods and Trowels.
We don't do politics, but just to explain, there were some changes, weren't there? I mean, you lived through it, Martin.
Well, I'm old enough to, she was Prime Minister for quite
Thatcher.
Maggie Thatcher. Yes, she made lots of, and I used to work for local councils. She privatised an awful lot, so took a lot of the things away from councils and put them out to competitive tender. So that's when lots of the parks departments, the nurseries, all disappeared, unfortunately.
A lot of changes.
Not always for the best, but we mustn't go down that route.
No.
Anyway, leave the politics there. Just remember, if you've got a question for us that's not about politics, you can ask them about politics. We just won't answer. info@potsandtrowels.com is our email address. Remember, you can get links to all these videos we're talking about and any podcasts and videos from our website, potsandtrowels.com. So, okay. So are we going to go and hear some more from Adam?
So, Adam, life after Barnsdale, you're on your own then, like you say, the rug had been pulled. So you were designing, because you've been designing and doing show gardens for a number of years, haven't you?
I mean, it was a conversation with David Stevens and really Nick Hamilton that sort of, my job went. I got a little bit of redundancy, helped Nick Hamilton get the gardens ready, Barnsdale open to the public, and then bought myself a little Peugeot van and the most beautiful cement mixer you have ever seen,
A new one?
Yeah, mate, yeah. Had to be new, didn't it? Hey, and I'd sponge it down.
Electric or petrol?
Petrol.
Oh, proper
Petrol.
job.
Yeah, back then it's sort of, you know, it was sort of, and you didn't want to turn up at clients' houses and ask them to use their electric.
True.
You know, so all very different now. But yeah, and I sort of got an apprentice and then went off. And initially, to be fair, I was doing a lot of landscape and then designing alongside, because I never thought who's going to employ me to design. And then just slowly over a period of time built that up to employing, 20 odd people, but they were about 20 versions of the 21-year-old me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't like most of them.
Oh, right.
You know, sort of, you wouldn't want that in your life, you know. No. Yeah, and then to be fair, the next bit really was Chelsea. We were lucky enough to build a garden with Terence Conran, and David Stevens was involved, and I did the build. And it was a conversation with Conran on a press day, and he'd said to me, David's told me, you know, you're a good designer, boy, what you're doing. You know, you're not going to carry on running a landscape company. He then explained to me Habitat was only set up because department stores wouldn't sell his furniture, and if I had a dream, I needed to follow it. And the same year, we were building the National Rose Garden at St Albans, and that had an £18,000 retention. I look back now and think it must have been crackers, really, because obviously it was quite a big company, so we were carrying a lot of debt. And I said to Mrs Frost, you know that £18,000 we got coming? I want to spend it on a Chelsea garden. Yeah.
Did that go down well?
Well, I mean, she was as silent as you were, you know. Yeah, but in the end, do you know what? The wonderful thing is, in the end, she went, do you know what? If you need to go and do it, do it. But make sure it's good. You know, so yeah, and then we went, mate, and then, yeah, as you and I have known each other for a long time, and went and started picking up those little gold things. But we self-financed a lot, probably our first 3, and then we started getting a little bit of interest. But looking back, actually, I was still being looked upon as like, well, is the landscaper that does a bit of designing. You know, Axel seemed to have won like a pocket full of medals before anybody went, oh, actually, I think you might be able to do this.
Yeah, it's that sort of old school thought, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
But you can do it because you've got lots of gold medals, haven't you?
Yeah, and to be fair, probably if I'd had a different life, a different upbringing, you know, I would have probably gone into design a long time. You know, I was brought up in a world that was, if you'd have talked about doing anything arty for a living to my old man, you know, you'd have got a backhander, like, you know. So, yes, and it took me a long time probably to build up the confidence to go, well, no, I can do this, you know. So, but yeah, funny, isn't it? Our life.
Yeah, how it goes in twists and turns, doesn't it? And you have to finish up doing something you thought you'd never do. So, I mean, nowadays, obviously, you're a regular on Gardener's World, television, and, you know, all the shows, doing the presentation from there. You're still doing design as well, aren't you? You still do design.
Yeah, I mean, that's still my main job. That's still what I mean, I always treat all this other stuff as it's just an add-on, isn't it? A bit of fun, so. You know. I mean, you know as well as me that this will come and go. At some point, I will be asked to leave the building.
Yeah, that's what happens, isn't it? Yes, everybody's dispensable. Yeah. But you're also working on some really, I think, interesting projects with the RHS. Yeah. You're designing some hospital gardens. I think there's one that's already up and running down in that sort of, is it Essex way?
There's 2 now. So there's one. Lewisham was the first one we did, which was gone really well. That was just as we came out of COVID, and then. Well, now with Colchester, and now we've got one in Leeds just gone through planning, and then we've just agreed to do a 4th one. You know, so I'm donating the designs, and then obviously the RHS are, you know, raising the money to build them. But we're in, you know, we do what we do, so we understand the power of the green space. But when you do it in around a hospital, you know, when emotions can be, you know, from top to bottom, you know, you can be in a hospital, come out with news and be totally elated to coming out with news, or losing somebody, or somebody being bored. I mean, if you think about it emotionally, a hospital encapsulates everything, and then to create a space that everybody gets something, and then you go back and you see people using it. I've been stopped over the weekend, and a few people have said they've come over from Essex way to here. And one lady stopped me yesterday and talked about I just want to say thank you for what you've done in Colchester, because my husband's was in for about 6 weeks, you know, and it was touch and go at times, and I could come out and I could sit in that space, you know, and you think, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was really delighted when I heard you were doing the one at St James Jimmy's in Leeds, because, you know, Jill and I had many visits there years ago with my mum, who was treated there. And I think to have that facility there, patients, staff as well, they need to get out, don't they, and just relax, and visitors can just go and sit somewhere in a lovely, peaceful environment is great. So I think that's wonderful that you're doing that.
No, I mean, and it's nice. I mean, it feels like the right thing to do. You know, like you like me and you know, we've sort of created a life out of growing things, you know, creating things, talking about them, but then to get the opportunity to just be able to maybe use what we can do to help other people is nice.
Yeah, it's nice to give back, isn't it?
Is,
Absolutely.
mate.
Any plans for the future you could share, or is it just sort of more of the same for the time being?
Yeah.
Because you do you go out on the road, don't you, with the theatre?
I mean, that's literally me earning a few quid for getting told off for what I was doing at school. Which is 2 hours of, I mean, it's 2 hours, it's a theatre tour, it's 2 hours of me on a stage. And you won't believe this, right? People buy a ticket.
Well, we know some people that went to the one at Newark and they were thoroughly enjoyed it. They came away, said it was great.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're very honest, but that aligns with the book that I've just done. So that I go back out in the autumn, which is great. But again, you know, if you'd have said to 16-year-old me, you'd be walking out on a stage and you'd have blown my mind. But again, it's lovely to go out, talk to people, mess about a little bit, but, you know, be honest. And what's nice about the live stuff is it's not the BBC Two cut version of you.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the real Adam.
The real Adam. They make a nice version, but not one I'd want to spend much time with. So I just get to be me, which is great, mate. Yeah, but and then obviously the shows like you, and no doubt we'll bump into each other throughout the rest of the year.
We will, absolutely, Keeps you busy, keeps you out of trouble, doesn't it?
It does, mate. It does that.
Adam, thanks for taking time to sit down and have a chat with us, and hopefully see you later in the summer somewhere.
You certainly will. Thanks, mate. Look after yourself. Cheers, boy.
It was great chatting to Adam, wasn't it? Lovely. And he's so popular with visitors to shows as well. He's sort of stopped as he was walking away from your little chat. He was stopped by 2 or 3 ladies, I have to say, who wanted to have a chat with him and have a selfie. And you know, he's really good, and he will sort of give time to people.
He's a real genuine guy. What you see is what you get. There's no airs and graces, and that's what I like about Adam.
I think you should tell everybody on the podcast what the people who asks you about him. So when we record the podcast, obviously we use microphones. People watching on YouTube can see us talking into microphones. So you were talking into microphones, and somebody came up to Jill and what did they say?
Well, I was just sitting on the first row of the chairs, sort of watching what was happening, taking some pictures, and a lady came up to me and she said, "Can you just tell them that the microphone's not working because we can't hear it at the back?" There was nobody else in the audience, only me. So I did say, "Well, no, but you can listen to it on Pots and Trowels podcast in a couple of weeks."
Yeah. Keep listening, you'll hear it.
I think they saw him sitting there at the front and thought, we can listen to him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's a nice
I
chat.
should just say here that while we were listening to Adam's interview, these two were doing lots of Cockney rhyming slam.
We were. I felt I was in an episode of EastEnders for a moment there. We don't know much Cockney rhyme slam. We were making our own.
We were, yes, exactly, yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, yes, we need to move on from Cockney rhyme slam, or we'll probably end up saying.
Well, I have a very serious question from Leanne, who's up in Northumberland. Now, Leanne is fortunate enough to be going away quite a lot over the summer holidays, not for a long period, but for sort of lots of long weekends, I think. I'd quite like to know where, Leanne. That would be quite nice to know, a little bit of detail. But Leanne would like some pots on her patios, but she doesn't want to put ordinary bedding plants in, things that need quite a lot of deadheading and watering. But she does want a bit of colour. and something that's going to stand the test of time. So can you recommend something that would cope with all of those requirements, please?
Yes, I mean, we've actually recently done one of our videos, a Pots and Trowels video. So if you haven't seen that, then do look for that on planting a drought-resistant or drought-tolerant container. So I've included plants in there that will go for long periods without any water. So you could water them before you go away for a week or even 2 weeks, and they should still be fine. And they're the succulent plants. So things like aeonium, which you've probably heard of, got these lovely fleshy leaves in all different colours. Sedums, which come in all different shapes and sizes. So we've got a couple in there. Aloe, you've probably all heard of aloe vera. You could use that one, but there are different types of aloe. A lovely plant called Delosperma, which is a bit like, you might have heard of Livingston daisies, Mesobryanthemum, an annual that has daisies that open for a day and then close. This is a perennial version of it, sort of an alpine. And Echeveria, another succulent plant, which again comes in all different shapes and colours and sizes. And all of those are drought resistant. So I've planted a mixed pot up, as I say, you can see it on YouTube. And the idea is we're trying to see if we can get away with watering it hardly at all through the summer.
And minimal deadheading, don't need to do anything.
Yeah, very little
really.
deadheading, because it's mainly foliage, to be fair, but it's interesting foliage, and I just think it will look really good over the summer months.
Good idea.
Good stuff. Next question, scale insect on an Acer. There's a photo here. Do you want to see?
Ooh, that's terrible, isn't it?
Oh dear.
So that's, describing that, it is a...
We'll put it up for those watching on YouTube.
It's the trunk of the Acer with all these little limpet-like scales on it, and then a white, almost looks like candy floss, doesn't it, on the edge of them.
Yeah, they look like almost miniature turtles with some kind of marzipan underneath them.
Well, that sort of white, frothy, woolly material is actually the eggs. So that's the egg-laying stage of the scale insect. And that's a good time to control it, because it's if you did want to use a spray, you could use an organic insecticide. So an organic insecticide would burn through those eggs and help to control it. But at that stage, on a situation like that, probably the easiest way is just to actually get your fingers and scrape it off, or just get a piece of wood, something like a lollipop stick, and just scrape it off and get rid of them that way. You'll get rid of most of them, but you probably won't get rid of all of them, and they may come back, but it will certainly help with the problem.
Well, the reason I didn't mention whose Acer this is because it's mine. And because I did scrub them off and then they came back. So you've kind of obviously guessed what happens. I thought I was being very clever. I put a piece of polythene down on the base of the plant because it's in a pot, and I thought they'll all wash off away from the plant when they, but they came back. So I'll just keep at it, I guess.
Yeah, because you've done the right thing, because they do breed very quickly and multiply. So if you could just keep on top of it, it will minimise the damage that they do to the tree.
And if you don't do that, what happens?
Well, they suck sap out of the tree. So if you get a really big colony of them, then it can weaken the tree, especially if it's a small tree or not a vigorous tree. So it's good to keep on top. I mean, they're a widespread problem all over the country on lots of different trees. So they will always come back, but at least you can manage them.
It reminds me of the question we asked a week or two ago, where we said, where are they when they're not there? Where are they? Where are they hiding?
Where do they come from?
Yeah, well, they're not always as visible. At the breeding stage, they are, but very often when they're small, they get underneath the branches or underneath the leaf along sort of the veins, so they sort of hide away.
So okay, keep on it, keep at them. Okay, well, let's just remind people that they can get in touch and drop a question if they want to. It's info@potsandtrowels.com. That's our email address, or just go on potsandtrowels.com and you can find all the links to social medias and YouTube and all that good stuff. It's all there.
Good. Shall we do some jobs?
Let's do that.
Right, just a few things you can be doing now. We're into June. If you're thinking of going some biennials for your garden for flowering next year, they're things like foxgloves, sweet williams, Canterbury bells. They make the growth in the first year and flower in the second year. Now is the time to be sowing the seeds. So sow the seeds usually in small pots, or if you've got some small seed trays of compost, and then prick them out, grow them on in trays and plant them out later on in the summer, they'll have a good sized plant that will be flowering at this time for you next year. Sweet peas we've touched on before in previous podcasts. If you've got them planted out in the garden, make sure to get them really established and growing, because it's this first part of the growth that determines how long they'll flower for through the summer and how long the stems will be. So plenty of water and plenty of feed. So, a granular feed watered in or a liquid feed once a week at this time of the year while they're actively growing will pay dividends in the long term. And lettuces and other salad crops, the secret with them is to sow little and often. So if you do like your salads, and we're coming into summer, so hopefully we're going to get the weather and we can eat lots and lots of lovely salad fresh from the garden. Ideally, every couple of weeks, sow a few more seeds so that you've got this continuous supply of lettuce all the way through the summer and into autumn. And then roses, which you touched on earlier. We're coming into the rose season. We've actually had a few roses in the garden open. The first one, always the first, is Gertrude Jekyll, which is a lovely
Beautiful
shrub rose, a lovely rich pink colour and scented. The secret is to keep them growing now and flowering all through the summer. So as soon as the flower heads have finished, snip them off, and that will encourage more buds to develop and open.
Can I just ask? Deadheading roses, bit of contentious
We've actually
issue
got a
in our
video
house.
about this, how the
I
pros
think
do it.
we have, yeah. So do you just snap the heads off at the sort of top of the head, the bottom of the head, top of the stalk, or do you go a bit lower down?
It depends on the type of rose. If it's what we call a cluster rose,
Yes.
so there's multiple roses on one
Yeah, 'cause
stem.
we've got one that's got kind of three. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
it.
I would just snap those off as they go. But if it's like an old-fashioned hybrid tea where it puts up a straight stem with mainly just one flower at the top, I would then cut that stem down by a half to a third to a half.
Okay.
It will make a new shoot and then flower later in the season.
Cut it by half or down to it?
Cut
Cut it
it
by a
down
third
by-
or down to a third?
Down by a third or a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it's like glass half full.
Yeah,
isn't
It
it?
is
yeah.
glass
Yeah.
half full or half empty. But the important thing is that you don't leave the dead flowers on, because that will delay flowering of the other flower buds. So get rid of the flowers when they fade, and check for aphids, because this time of the year we often get aphids, especially on the flower buds. And I find the easiest way to get rid of them is just use your fingers and literally just rub them off. It gets rid of them very, very quickly. Feed them and water them, because again, if we get some warm, dry weather, it stresses the plant. And if you can give it just a little bit of water every now and again and a little bit of a liquid feed, that will really boost the vigour of that rose, keep it healthy and flowering right the way through the summer. Often you get that first flush of roses, then we'll get dry weather and they just slow down, and we want to keep them going right the way through the summer. So now's the time to take action with your roses.
Okay.
Take action on roses.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fabulous. Well, if you've got rose pictures you want to send us your pictures. Let's have a look at those roses. info@potsandtrowels.com. We like to see what you're doing in your garden. don't we?
Yes. And don't forget, as Sean mentioned earlier, we've got our live YouTube
Yes.
on Thursday, the 12th of June. So
Yeah.
put that in your diary.
So that'll be 7:00 UK time. Obviously, that'll be different depending on where you are in the world, but everyone's welcome to join us on the YouTube. Send us your questions either before or during. We're happy to see those. Usually what we do is we put some stream up a little bit earlier, so we're there and we're going to be ready, and then hopefully we'll be live at 7:00 or for a few
and that's
seconds after.
7 p.m. 1900 hours.
1900
Yeah.
hours.
Oh, I have to get my hair cut, my makeup sorted.
Oh, by the way, if you've never seen one of our live shows before, it might be worth going back and checking. They're all on YouTube for us to watch, but you can see what to expect, and they are quite good fun, aren't they? And they're not just a 7-minute YouTube video. We go until we're done.
We keep going till we drop.
Lots of tea and cake.
Yeah,
With lots of tea cake and potentially something slightly
But we need
stronger.
your questions to make it work.
Yeah,
we do.
So do send in your questions, or even just
A shout out.
Shout outs.
Just chats, yeah.
Tell us where
Any
you are in the
comments.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fantastic. I think that's about all for this
That's
week.
it, yeah.
I think it is.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Watch the videos on YouTube or Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter or X, and subscribe to the podcast and never miss a thing. For more information, go to potsandtrowels.com.